really exciting for you all to sort of be diving into research, fundamental analysis of crypto protocols. So my name is Alex. I work in research and data at Artemis. So that means I do a lot of like protocol research, trying to understand what the business models are, what the fundamentals are of a lot of these blockchain-based applications and protocols, in order to understand, how does the business model work at a fundamental level? What are the fees, the revenues for the protocol? And I write, a lot of SQL to extract this data from on-chain, from like the more raw on-chain metrics, from on-chain data. And yeah, so I guess I can share my screen. I can show you guys a little bit more about Artemis, our product, and maybe how you can use it in your in your analysis of this competition. So let's see. Okay, you guys should be able to see my screen. I think everything's running a little bit slow because I'm running a million things. But so at Artemis, we're really trying to build the data standard for digital finance. We're a data platform. We try to go really deep on fundamentals and highlighting the things that really matter in the space. So we offer a variety of different ways for ingesting our data. The most simple is probably the terminal. Bloomberg terminal, you can come to it and just see, at a high level, what's going on in crypto. So this is our landing page. You can kind of compare different sectors and their performances. So AI tokens, which we've categorized on our end, an index that we've recently announced, as well as benchmarking that against, things like the NASDAQ, S&P 500, Bitcoin alone, et cetera. And if you scroll down further, you can see more things like sector performance. We have deeper dashboards if you go here onto our left-hand side. So stablecoins has been a really big focus for us. We recently published actually this paper with Visa. If you guys are interested in reading this, happy to send it over to you guys. But we did a whole bunch of data work here, along with Brevin Howard, Castellan Ventures, Nick Carter, to better understand like what's going on in stablecoins. And like trends generally show, stablecoins are going up in terms of like usage, supply. Stripe recently acquired Bridge for like $1 billion. Pretty crazy. And here you can just go really deep into stablecoins. We have other dashboards, like our sectors dashboard, where you can compare more granular data for different types of applications. So perpetuals, for instance, you can compare trading volume, so on and so forth. And one more thing I'd like to highlight in our terminal is the application activity dashboard. And so, maybe you'll see like daily active addresses going up, daily transactions going up on the chain. But why is that happening? So we've created this application activity dashboard where you can see what sectors specifically within each chain are driving the rise or decrease in metrics. And you can click in a little more deeply. I think Sue is a good example here, where you can maybe see, okay, active addresses are generally up pretty high. Why is that? And we see that there's this one application called Record that has been like, crushing it in terms of active addresses, transactions, and so forth. So I think just a cool thing to highlight there. But what you guys might be most interested in is our Sheets plugin. So if you guys aren't familiar, we have an extension that you can download in Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, where you can pull blockchain data from our data platform directly into an Excel model spreadsheet. So I've pulled up a couple of templates over here. So this is like a sector performance dashboard that we've created. You can easily click into this directly from our extension sidebar. And all this is powered by sort of Artemis data. If you want to look at, relative valuation of different layer ones and layer twos, this is all powered by our data here. So these can be some great starting points if you guys are thinking about how do we compare these different assets. We created these templates where you just get started and you can just kind of start plugging and playing numbers around, grading your models, so on and so forth. I think that's the majority of what I wanted to share in terms of the Artemis product. So to highlight our Sheets plugin and our terminal. Happy to field any questions if you guys have any.
Do you want to run through an example of how you might use it for analysis? Like maybe you're starting with a specific blockchain and then you boil it down or something like that.
Yeah, good idea. Ooh. That's it.
While he's pulling it up, I can definitely say, at Franklin, we use these guys' tool, extensively. Love the product. You can also, if there's a certain Dune dashboard, that you're working with, you can actually kind of write it so it pulls that into your Google Sheet or Excel model, and so you can kind of incorporate some of that data as well, which is pretty handy.
Yeah, great point there, Christopher. One great integration that we have is we have our standard art function, but we also support Dune integration. So if you put in your API key, your Dune API key, looks like we have one inserted already. We can go to Dune. Things are pretty slow here. Let's see, what should we grab? Maybe grab a fluid protocol. Haven't quite heard of it, but seems possibly interesting. And so look, they have total stablecoin supply. And so the way we do this is each Dune query actually has like a unique identifier, which you can grab up here in the URL. And so if you come over to our spreadsheet, put in Art Dune as well as the query identifier. Oh, have we not started this? Let's start a new spreadsheet just in case. See, Artemis Sheets, start. Okay, should be good to go. And so just really quickly, you can see here, we've pulled in the entire data set from this Dune query here. So these query results are the same thing that you are seeing right here in the spreadsheet. So you might go out and find some Dune dashboards that you really like and say, darn, I really wish I could use this in my model. And so you can just pull that in using the query ID as well as the Art Dune function. Some other stuff you can do, for example, is if you wanted to look at like ETH DAUs, you could pull that like this, specifying the metric as well as the asset name. You can also do this sort of on a date basis. So today is the yesterday, so the 22nd. And we can pull this in for yesterday, as well as sort of any number of days that we want. Yeah, this is probably not the most efficient way of doing this. You can actually put in a start date and an end date directly, and that'll just generate that in one single query. You want to make sure that you don't use this function like 100 million times. If you can use sort of like a date range, that'll be better performance for the spreadsheet. If not, you're just doing like a million different API calls. And so we can just replicate this. Let's make this a little more programmatic for maybe BTC. Sure these are anchored. Goals as you work for BTC. Set up. Yep, that should be like that. Should be there. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, and you can do this for any protocol that you want to be able to just copy, paste it, and sort of start building out these comparative models for almost any asset that you want. We can even replace this with like fees if you want to look at more like financial metrics. This is not the best way of doing this, but yeah, so that's sort of like an easy way to get started. I'm not personally a finance person, so I'm not sure if I can walk you through how to build an actual model, but what you can do is if you wanted to just get started with an existing template built by one of our analysts, or a lot of our background is from like investment banking, private equity. So folks like Jimmy, our CFO, have gone ahead and built some templates that you can get started with. So we can pick one. I think we already picked like ETH operating metric ecosystem like ETH. There we go. So you can see that this is pulling from these other sort of subsheets using the art function, and you can make these like really pretty sort of advanced models using the Artemis plugin. Yeah. Hope that was helpful. Is there any questions? Anything that was unclear there that I can go over for you guys?
And I'll add, if any of that, what he's going through sounds or looks overwhelming, their documentation is really good and really easy. And I think starting with some of these templates, and you can just see how they're building the formulas, makes it a lot easier to just kind of, jump in and get your hands dirty. But if you were to look at like market cap to fees, right, or do some kind of like ratio analysis between, say, comps of whatever token you might be looking at, or market cap to developers or TVL, right? So they have all those kind of metrics built in, and they make it easy to kind of pull into Excel. And then you have that other piece where if you find anything that's really specific to the project that you're digging into on Dune, there's a great dashboard, and you're like, oh, I'd love to work with that data and do some analysis. You can just use that little art Dune, pull it all in, and then from there you can kind of do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Christopher. Any other questions?
There is one question in the chat. It's more about a specific feature. Are there any plans to add native minting to the flows dashboard?
Native minting to the flows dashboard. I'm not sure we had that on our roadmap. Whoever wrote that, would you mind expanding a little bit on what you mean?
Yeah, Benjamin, if you want to unmute and dig into that a little bit, go for it.
Oh yeah, it was just a quick question because right now the flows chart is really just like inflows minus outflows for bridging, so it doesn't really quantify like USDC native minted on Solana or Ethereum. So I was just wondering if there were plans to add that.
I think the flows dashboard. Let me double check. That was our engineer Seb's sort of focus there. But it should account for like tokens that are like USDC or USDT that are bridged in like the absolute terms. I'm not sure if that'll be reflected necessarily in sort of like the net inflow or outflow. I can definitely flag that to our flows team and get back to you with maybe like a better answer and see if it's in the roadmap for.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Is there anything else? We have a few more minutes for questions.
I can't help myself. I'll jump in one more time. So what I love here is, right, there's the terminal or the dashboard, and then they have, you know, the formulas, right? And so the one way to think about it is you can do a lot of your exploratory work, you know, on the website, in these dashboards, you know, as you kind of brainstorm interesting ideas, like, because you'd be surprised, like you go on there any given week and something is kind of, you know, running, right, in terms of addresses or TVL, and you're like, what's going on? Like things jump out all the time. And so just from a exploratory standpoint, to find interesting things and things that are standing out, and they could be standing out for positive reasons or for negative reasons or whatnot. So a lot of that, you know, you can use the website, you know, the terminal, the dashboards for. And then when you kind of find something and you want to dig in, that's when you can, you know, kind of use the formulas to start pulling in data and kind of peel back the onion, right? Kind of figure out why something is looking different, you know, compared to kind of everything else that's happening in the chain at that time.
Right on. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys are paying attention. What I'm doing here in the background is you can grab any of these existing charts that have this little download button and just download it as a CSV and pull the data straight into your where did I save this? Here we go. Straight into your spreadsheet if you want to just have that data. Yeah, so there you have it. Sort of net flows by chain, by day, and you can. Sorry, this Google Meet thing. I got to keep moving around. You can, you know, increase the period, download it again if you want to get the full history of the data. You can do sort of the same here for some of our stablecoin charts. So this is also just another great way to just easily dive in. We've also recently added a formula builder. So maybe you don't know exactly what metrics you want, what assets you want. You can go into this formula builder here on the side and maybe browse through chains. Maybe you're interested in like Cosmos chains, and you want to look at like fundamentals. So you can grab fees and a time range. So we can do year to date to compare to 2024. And we select two. We did. Okay, we'll just select one. We got fees for year to date, and it'll sort of create the formula for you. And you can just pull that right into your spreadsheet. This is really powerful. You know, just at least like to explore, see what metrics are available to you, see what assets are available to you in our spreadsheet. As you can see, we support, you know, tons of assets to have most of your bases covered, as well as a breadth of metrics. So including, you know, developer data. That's one interesting way to analyze different networks is how many GitHub commits do they have, how many developers are there, and so you can use those metrics as well. Transfer that over here. Okay, so maybe we don't support that for Atom, but yeah, you guys can kind of get the idea here. So we have CSV downloads straight from the website, from our terminal. ArtDune to pull in Dune data, and And so this should really help you, yeah, as Christopher mentioned, peel back the onion. You can start at the terminal, do some sort of high level clicking around, seeing what's going on, and then sort of get deeper and deeper, either through like our application activity monitor, or doing your own analyses using the formula builder or looking at some of our existing templates. Yes, Arjun, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, Wes, do you want to highlight the CoinGecko thing that we can do in the sheets where you're able to pull a range of CoinGecko assets? I think it's just another way, like, in addition to the terminal, where you're able to see you're able to aggregate a bunch of assets that already exist directly in the Sheets plugin, and then do the Artemis functions on top of the tickers there. So you can do everything from Sheets as well. You don't have to actually. You can use both terminal and the Sheets to find assets.
Is this what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So right now, I don't know the exact function, but you can just like pull in like a bunch of stuff from CoinGecko directly, like programmatically, basically.
Yeah. Let me quickly double. And if you want to pull in sort of the consistent top 100, top 1,000 assets, sort of doing this recently over here. And so this is our function for pull top 1,000. This is the sheet that wasn't working. Come here. And yeah, so this pulls in, the top 1,000. You can do really any number here. Maybe top 100 is more relevant. So the more, larger market cap assets. Basically, this will give you sort of like a consistent, updated list of the top assets, and you can easily sort of parlay this with the other functions. If you want to pull in like the market cap, you can just do equals art and pull this through for all of our metrics, for all of our assets. This will slowly fill out. Go one by one, a little slower. Oh, sorry guys, Sheets is not my forte. There we go. So yeah, just to show the top 10 here. Now we can keep track of the top 10 assets. By market cap, you can drag this down sort of to the rest to get to the top 100. Yeah, great flag there, Arjun. Thanks for the shout. Cool. Yeah, we can sort of keep doing this with like different metrics. If you wanted to kind of get like high level, where are we at today with our metrics?
Sorry to interrupt. And to update these numbers, is it like you just pull another query, or is it like a set time for the update?
Yeah, so if you do it without a date, so see how there's no date in the arguments here, it'll just pull the most recent day. But you can specify a date. Maybe you did like date, you can pick yesterday. We usually have data through like the most recent day. So 22nd, and you can specify that in here, reference the date. Then if you ever wanted to update this, you could update this date right here. Or you could do time series, which might be more interesting if you wanted to pull like last 30 days fees, last 90 days fees. You want to look at it on a daily basis. The way we did that here was we referenced sort of this start date that we set, end date, or flip that, start date, end date. And the plugin will automatically return that range of dates with this metric for that asset. Does that clarify that?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Are there any more questions? It's 3:30, so all right, I think we're good. Thank you, Alex. This is very, very helpful. I knew about a lot of this, but not all of it, and it's a lot more expansive than I had initially anticipated. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and we're always here. If you guys have questions, want to reach out. We got some
I'll add you to the Telegram chat with everybody in it. I don't think you're in there yet. So if anybody has questions for Alex, you can throw it right in that chat. He's going to be in there. And yeah. All right. So I'm now going to introduce Anil and Ceteris. Please let me know if I'm pronouncing that name wrong. And you two. Yeah, it's good. Great. Glad. Be great if you just talk a little bit about yourselves, quick intro, and then take it from there.
Yeah, definitely happy to. Yeah, Ceteris and I are pretty excited to be here, to be honest. We're both from the research division at Delphi. I'm one of the founders of Delphi. Mostly spend time on the research and ventures division. I think if you guys are on this call, it's already super bullish because you guys are obviously diving deep into crypto. I think one of my favorite parts about crypto at large is after I graduated college, I went to work at Bloomberg at Deutsche Bank, went down the traditional finance path. And I think what quickly happened to me was I realized that a lot of, my ideas weren't based, weren't judged based off their merits. They were just based off how much experience I had or whose, ass I was kissing at the company. And I kind of hated that world. And also seeing the inside of a dying German bank like Deutsche Bank really scared, the crap out of me. So when I fell down the crypto rabbit hole, I kind of fell quickly in love and became very obsessed very quickly. And, we left our jobs to start Delphi back in 2018. Been crazy 6 years, but it's been a lot of fun. And I think, one story I was telling people is when we started Delphi, there was no real thing as fundamental research or anything like that. And essentially our first year, we only had 2 to 3 clients, multi-coin and, hash and stuff like that. But really how we started making a name for ourselves was via consulting. Our second report ever, we walked through, we had less than 1,000 followers. Our second report ever, we walked through why the economics of ETH 2.0 didn't make sense from a security standpoint. And then, within basically a lot of ETH maxis, were kind of upset at us because they're man, you guys are flooding our bags and everything like that. But what was cool about that was within 24 hours of that report, Vitalik and the whole ETH 2.0 core team reached out, asked for our models. We hopped on a call with them. We ended up, really kind of sharing our thoughts and our concerns. And then a month later, Vitalik ended up pushing through a proposal, shouting us out on some podcasts, giving us a lot of credit. And that's really when I think Delphi became, a quote unquote household name within crypto. And I say all that because that was our second report ever. And, we thought transparently, we were just going to ride the coattails of this gold rush, right? And obviously that was not the case. But what's cool is really quickly while we were talking to Vitalik and everything like that, we realized that, this space was going to need a lot of, differentiated opinions, different skill sets and everything like that to make it happen. And I think that was a big inflection point for us because it changed us from going from this hey, we're going to, just ride the coattails of this industry to we're actually going to be a big part of it and making it happen. I think that's kind of why I get really excited about it. And I think if you guys are in college thinking about what you're going to do in the future, I think crypto is one of the only industries in the world where you can kind of break out and by doing things sharing your data online, sharing your writings online, things like that, you can get ahead much faster than you can in any other industry. So, kudos to you guys for, spending the time here. What is Delphi today? I think it's important to kind of get some context. We have 3 main businesses: research, ventures, and labs. We started with the research division. And honestly, we started with research because we thought, we could get paid to learn about this industry that we're super excited about. It feel like cheating, right? I think a lot of people, they think, when we publish a report, they're oh man, you guys are super deep in this sector. How did you guys get deep, etc. It makes sense that you would write about it. You guys are, really deep in it, whatever. It's actually exactly the opposite. When we start writing a report on something, we actually have very little knowledge about it, right? And I think that's probably my favorite thing about our research process and how we go about it. And I'm going to pass it over to Cedric in a bit to go through, like, he's our head of research. He's written like some of the best Delphi reports, since we got started. He wrote like this, the deepest dive on Solana when it was at $12 for all our members last year. He'll walk through like what he looks for in a report, because I think he's made our research team much better than it was when I was one of the researchers and everything like that. But I think like there's two main things that we kind of think about when we're looking at writing research. And maybe I can share my screen and start walking through the portal now. Let me know if you guys can see this. I think that should be good. Yeah, so this is our portal. We have obviously like a bunch of different reports. You guys are all going to get like access to this. To be transparent, we do charge a lot of blockchain clubs for this. So if you talk to your friends at other schools, don't tell them that we give this to you for free for a month. But honestly, use it, and all the people who like use the different features I'm going to show off and stuff. That's kind of like what my team really wants to see, to keep extending that kind of like trial and everything like that. But first things first, the way that we think about writing research is much different than I think these other media firms that you see in the space. Obviously, a big fan of like Selkis and Masari, like been friends with them for a while, etc. I think a lot of these other media firms, they cover this space looking backwards, which is totally fine, because I think it's very hard to be plugged in. So when GOAT goes up by to like 700 mil like it is today, etc., you'll see their headline, or like, hey, why is this happening, etc. What Cedric and our team really focuses on is exactly the opposite. We don't want to write about anything that's on crypto Twitter. So that's kind of like one kind of like piece of advice that I'd say that we kind of follow and is like in our DNA at Delphi. If it's on crypto Twitter, it's already too late. That's like something we kind of like really think about. So we try and write about things at least 6-9 months before they become like a big narrative in crypto. And I think that's how we keep our members like informed of what's going to happen, where crypto's headed, etc. Two, if we write a report on something, it has to be the deepest possible dive on that specific topic. So while I love these other media friends and good friends with all of them, like if you see one of their reports on, say, Athena or Off the Grid or something like that, and you pull up a Delphi report, I can almost guarantee that our report will be like 10x better, 10x deeper, etc. And that's really kind of the bar that Cedric has. There's a lot of content that we write within Delphi that we don't even publish because it doesn't meet those two bars. So yeah, that's kind of like one thing that is really important to how we think about our research and everything like that. Now, the research, obviously, you see kind of like the breadth. I think another exercise that you can do is if you go to these other media firms and look at their front page, all their front pages are going to have very similar topics. Right now, I'd say it's probably about like, obviously GOAT, maybe about, USDC or something like that, whatever. For us, we kind of like, because we're following those two rules and like not trying to be in that echo chamber, ours is going to look much different. So anything we do write is hopefully like very differentiated, right? Now, these reports are pretty lengthy, as you can see, 32-minute reads. And obviously nowadays with TikTok and everything, everyone's attention span is super short. But I think this is where the true alpha is. Like if you read this report, and by the way, we do have certain like AI tools that we're like testing out that you guys can play with, where it summarizes reports, you can ask questions, whatever. But I really do think if you don't have to read every report, but any report that kind of speaks to you or a topic that's interesting to you, start reading. And I think if you read that report, you'll probably know that like sector, that protocol, whatever, better than 99% of people who actually work in the industry. One of the first features that I want to like talk about is this thing called inline comments. So essentially what it is it turns every report of ours into a living, breathing Google Doc. So essentially when you guys are reading, and this is a feature that we'd love to see you guys actually kind of like use, so you can see this one is like highlighted. People will literally, anything that you have a question on or have your own comment on, you can highlight, and leave a comment, ask your own question, whatever, and, kind of like start communicating with not just our analyst team, but our community at large. So, this was one report I was reading earlier today that I noticed had like a bunch of comments, right? And I think sometimes like, obviously this is going to be like the 80-20 or the 98-2 rule where, most people are going to be lurkers and some people are going to use it. But sometimes not only having access to the feature is useful, but like knowing what to ask is just as important as knowing the answer, right? So I think this is something that like we really kind of want you guys to like test out, use, ask questions, debate us. Like if you debate us, that's even more bullish, to be honest. Like we want people to disagree. That's how we become better. That's how you become better, etc. Another thing that you can kind of do here is instead of just highlighting it for, you know, your specific, like, for example, you don't have to do it to the community at large. We'll set up teams for you guys, and maybe we can chat with, you know, you guys afterwards to figure out if you want to do it within your school or within the research competition as a whole. But for example, we do this within Delphi where we, you know, all the people within ventures, labs, research, all kind of like read our research, and we kind of like all debate and comment on these reports with one another, right? And I think that's what makes us kind of like get super deep on the pulse of crypto, etc. So that's one feature. Another feature is called Alpha Feed. This has actually become like the most popular section of the site, to be honest, this year. Essentially, you know, our research, 30, 40-minute reads, obviously very super deep. This is kind of like our own Twitter feed or like our, you know, the TikTokification of Delphi research, I'd say. Like, so these are much shorter, actionable, like kind of like quick reads and stuff that like are shorter research notes, right? And so this has become really popular. So, you know, read this, obviously comment if you have questions, etc. I think this has been a big hit. The last thing before I pass it on to Cedrus, and obviously if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hands. Happy to kind of dive into anything, whether it's related to research or just Delphi at large. But this is a free tool, so you don't even need to have a subscription, although obviously you guys will get that access. But essentially what this is it's our own curated kind of like reading list. So, you know, this is, I think, something like really relevant if you want to like just stay on the pulse of crypto. So yeah, maybe I'll pause there in case anyone has any questions, or Cedrus, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I guess I can jump in and just talk about like what makes a good report, what makes a good analyst. So I think to Anil's point, like a lot of these other research shops, I think they do like a really good job of talking about a lot of stuff, covering like overviews of different topics and different protocols. What makes us very different is that we are highly opinionated in our reports, right? That's like the number one thing. When somebody reads one of our reports, like when they're done reading, they know what the takeaway is, right? Like what really makes a good writer and a good analyst is not just, you know, summarizing a bunch of different documents and explaining how something works. It's kind of like explaining why I care, like how it works, right? And why I even need to know about it. Like, why do I need to know about this specific ZK protocol or something? Do I really, you know, we're selling this research to institutions like hedge funds, traditional finance, banks at times, and just like individuals. And while they do care about the technicals and understanding how the technicals work, they also want to know like why those technicals matter, right? I think like being able to take something very complex and kind of just like distill it down into why it matters, and then give your opinion on like what are the knock-on effects of this, right? What's like the second, third order effects of whatever you're researching, right? Anil was talking earlier about how like it's a blank canvas, this industry, and you can make a name for yourself. This is like entirely how I created my career in this industry. Like I have an economics background, got a CFA, did like traditional finance, but I was really bored in that job. In 2019, one day, sitting at my office at like 6 p.m., created the Twitter account and just started like putting free research out there, just putting research out there under the pseudonym that I still use. And like nobody knew my background, nobody knew anything about me, but I was able to like build a following, right? Being like opinionated and being different, right? Like the number one way to make yourself stand out is to have opinions. And there's someone in this call, Ben, who's the Florida, who works for Delphi now. And even though I disagree with Ben about a lot of stuff, he's not afraid to like push back. He's not afraid to put his thoughts out there. And like those are the kind of things that will make you a good analyst in the long run. Like if you're able to be wrong in public, and like I've been wrong about a ton of stuff, like everybody on our team has been wrong about stuff, but if you're able to willing to like be wrong in public and kind of like eat those losses, it'll just make you like a really good analyst. And so when we like get people applying for jobs at Delphi, I always tell people like, I'm not really going to read your resume. I'm really not. I want you to write something. I want you to write like a good 10-minute report on something, like why it matters. And just show me that like you kind of understand what matters in this industry, right? Because we write about a very select few, not very select, but like we don't write about everything, right? There are a lot of protocols with like big market caps that we've never done a report on because they're just kind of like a big distraction, right? And yeah, so I don't know if I have more to say. I would say like those are the main takeaways, is like don't be afraid to be bold. People want opinions. People like want to be told what to think. That's just the reality. That's why they buy research. Like they want to be told why something matters. I think on our portal, some good reports to kind of get an idea of this would be like, I think the infrastructure year ahead report from 2024 was good. Definitely the recent report by Rinko, Markets Will Save the World. That is also another phenomenal report. And there's like a bunch more, but those would be ones that our year ahead reports, so that we like, this is the other difference with us too, is that our year ahead reports are like predictions for the next year, right? It's like how we think the next year is gonna kind of play out. And so this infra year ahead report last year was all about like kind of like the problems that we saw arising within Ethereum ecosystem, and kind of like how the value accrual would shift and how everything would change. You know, why we thought Solana would keep accelerating, why we thought, you know, like cross-chain intents are going to be like the way, you know, bridging happens, what that means for bridging protocols today and like bridge protocol tokens, right? Like liquidity bridges and all of this. And so it's really looking at the year ahead, and it's really kind of like, you know, predicting how we think the next year will shape up. So I think those are great reports for like understanding kind of like how we think about stuff. And then, yeah, of course, the more recent ones too. And we also just did this. We're doing like this crypto AI thing. This is the second week. It's a 3-week thing, but we had an analyst write 4 reports on that entire sector, which are like massive deep dives. But that's what Anil was saying, right? Like we started writing about this crypto AI stuff. And listen, I'll be totally honest, as the head of research, I did think like crypto AI was just pure vaporware for a long time. And I still think there's like a high degree of that. But I mean, you kind of like everything is kind of vaporware at the start, and there's always something real that comes out of a new narrative. And like to Anil's point, like we need to talk about it before it's on Twitter. And it's kind of like amazing timing for us that we're finishing this 4-part series. The 4th part is on the agentic economy. This Truth Terminal thing literally happened last week, right? And like everybody's talking about this now. And like this is kind of where we want to be. Like we want to talk about things that, you know, are riskier to talk about, like not just write reports about like Ethereum and L2s every day and just kind of like, you know, just like regurgitate and repeat everything everybody else is saying. We actually want to take risks and like talk about these new ideas, these new areas. So yeah, that's all I really had. I don't know if Neil, if you had anything else you want to add.
No, I think, I think it's a great overview. I'd say like, yeah, honestly, just click around our research portal and like, I'm pretty confident you'll find at least 1 or 2 reports in the last month that you're gonna be curious about. And honestly, just follow your like curiosity. At this, you know, at this point in time, we're publishing so much content that I no longer can read every piece of Delphi content anymore. So now I just pick and choose which ones I do want to read. For example, our markets team is really good. These guys like not only like called the top like perfectly, but then our markets guy Jason, who was like the in-house bear, we called him, flipped bullish memes on like Whiff and Bonk in October at like the bottom. So I always read their stuff because like they've been spot on. And I think macro is something that unfortunately you have to pay attention to if you're going to be like a crypto investor. But yeah, other than that, I think just like, play around, read certain reports. And I think like, again, some of our best reports, like, this was literally a year ago, right? So this is like a great example of how we separated ourselves from the pack. And obviously Cedric and I could not be more biased, right? We have huge Delphi bags and they're just like, work here and everything like that. But I think like, how we separated ourselves from the pack is like, essentially, instead of doing like a year in review, which is definitely useful because like not everyone is super deep in the space. We actually don't care about that stuff. We don't care about the people who are not super deep in the space because I think the BlackRocks, the Goldmans, etc., they're going to have to meet us where we are, right? Like the alpha is in the trenches. So our whole team lives in the trenches and we don't do any like real beginner content or anything like that. And our year ahead reports, they're exactly that. Instead of looking backwards, like why we already, this is the past, we already lived it, whatever. We want to look forward. And so for example, obviously now it's very popular to be like, oh man, ETH's lost its way. Solana is like the, talk of the town, etc. This is literally 12 months ago. And this was our foreshadowing that this would happen. And this was not like, common, like a common kind of like bet or anything like that. So I'm super excited for our year ahead reports that are coming out in December, but there's obviously a ton of content.
Yeah, I guess the last point I'll just make is like also just Delphi in general. We don't like tell analysts what to write about, and I don't want to tell analysts what to write about. I kind of just trust that like we hire the right people, and then I know that they're going to write about the right things. And so everybody has like true autonomy and kind of just like coming up with what they want to write about. And when you're doing this like competition, I think you should really think about something you care about within the industry, because that's how you're going to get the best report. You're not going to it's going to be a lot harder for you to like win this competition and have a good report if you're writing about something that you don't really care about, right? And so like last year, a year and a half ago, I guess, when I did the Solana report, it was like I literally just worked for a month straight on that, like every day, and I was so excited to get that report out because I was afraid that like Sol was going to start pumping like really hard because I was seeing everything that was happening, right? Just by like, I was like passionate about that. And I've had other reports where I haven't felt like that, right? And so you can kind of tell when you're doing something, the more passionate, the more you actually care about it, the more interested you in, like the deeper you'll just go naturally, and like the better it'll be in the end. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'd add, I know we're, ranting a lot, but like, writing research is so incredible because now Ceteris has that like as an NFT basically, right? Like you have the report on our portal with the timestamp, with the price stamp, etc. And Ceteris, myself, a bunch of our team went to Singapore for like token this year, and like it was like Ceteris was like a celebrity, right? Like so many of our members were coming up to him and saying, "Hey, like you made us a bunch of money because your conviction and your deep dive in Solana made us under $15, right?" So it's really cool to get that out there. And I'd say like my biggest advice to literally anyone I talk to trying to get into the space is just create a Twitter account. If you're like, intimidated or don't want to put your name on it, literally do a pseudonym like Ceteris did. Literally, like you guys know that's obviously not his real name. And just start posting from that. And I think like just post about stuff that you're like attracted to, you're interested about, and it'll attract people who are, share those same passions. And now we'll shut up and, take some questions.
That was great. Thank you guys. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, wants to ask about maybe how they picked up on some of this stuff really early, right? Because what you guys are going to be doing is exactly what these guys do all the time, right? You're going to be pitching something that you think maybe a year out or a couple of years out is going to really shine, and hopefully you can convince the judges that too. So if you have any questions about that specifically.
I'd say like years out is too hard to do in crypto. Like you can have a broad theme and everything, but realistically, if you're writing a big research report, like people's attention spans are super short. Like you have like a 12-month period, right? So even this like crypto AI month, when we started planning this, like crypto AI, obviously a few people were talking about it and stuff, not the talk of the town. And we started it in October, and obviously it's been like the biggest focus. To Cedrus's point, our fourth part that just talks about AI agents literally came out like this week, yesterday, and that report has been worked on for over a month, right? So I think crypto moves very fast.
All right, Christopher, do you have anything you wanna add, or?
No, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And obviously big Delphi fans as well. I think what we really appreciate about you guys is the depth that you go, right? I think that passion for research shows up in your reports, and that's what we're looking for, kind of in this competition, right? I think the advice to find something that you're interested in is absolutely great, and just keep pulling on that thread, right? And ask yourself why. And I think relating what you guys said back to the conversation we had on Monday, about this isn't a book report assignment, right? It's not just explaining what the protocol does, but it's taking a view and asking why and asking why again, and just keep digging. So I think a lot of what they said is 100% spot on, and this will be fun. I'm excited for you all.
All
I'm
right,
glad to hear
great.
that Franklin Templeton is deep in the trenches with you guys, not those other big TradFi firms.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think like it's been super motivating to see Franklin Templeton be like in the trenches, right? And their team really is like, they're not faking it or anything like that. When we have conversations, they're talking about shit coins that we're like, what the fuck is that even? So it's super motivating to see, and I think like those guys and us and crypto natives should be your audience at the end of the day. Because like everyone's gonna meet us where we are, right? Like this is where the alpha is. So people aren't gonna like meet you at the service level or everything. So go deep and like Cedric said, have an opinion.
Awesome. All right. Well, this wraps up the second of 2 virtual sessions. So this is it. From here, it's about a week and a half of just straight grinding out these submissions, these 3 to 5 page reports. We're really excited to see them. Again, if you have any questions for Artemis, Delphi, any of the others, myself, throw it in the Telegram chat. That's the easiest way to get access to all of us. And yeah, that's really it. So have a great rest of your day, and good luck.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.